Everyone wants to live an inspired life, yet so many people search for happiness following the footsteps of peers and taking advice from people who have different values and outcomes to which they're searching. There are people born into wealth, graduated from the best universities in the world, and there are people who have none of that and yet are living extraordinary lives full of fulfillment and reward. The purpose of this podcast is to share insights and strategies that allow you to question the status quo and think freely, so you can design your life and be who you want to be. We get one life. Time is our most valuable asset. I believe that when we're free and able to focus on meaningful work, we become better human beings. This is Always Free, and I'm your host, Jason Graystone.
Welcome to the leading podcast for financial empowerment and wealth creation. Subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. You can connect with Jason on social media and subscribe to the Jason Graystone YouTube channel for weekly videos. Don't forget to also subscribe to the weekly newsletter to receive frequent educational content and action steps to help you design your life so you can be who you want to be. For news on all future events and updates, go to jasongraystone.com.
Well, welcome to the podcast, guys. I hope you had a good week so far. This is the number one podcast for financial empowerment and wealth creation. And if you're listening for the first time, go back to episode 1, start there, come back to me later and thank me. I'm just kidding. But honestly, it's the best thing you can do. They're all in order. So I've kind of taken on a journey through these podcasts, and I encourage you to go back to episode 1 specifically before listening to this one, although it's going to be a good one. So you might want to listen to this one, then go back. But today we've got a very, very special guest. He's my brother from another mother, very, very good friend of mine and business partner and trading partner, Akil Stokes. And I've been working with Akil Stokes for many years now. And we've worked with lots and lots of traders in that time. And I thought it'd be good to put together a little episode today. I reached out to Akil and said, do you think this would be, do you think a discussion around, what do you think a good discussion around trading would be? What would be valuable to the listeners? And we come up with a couple of ideas. So I think you're going to get a lot of value from this, particularly if you're thinking about going into trading, or you've just started your trading journey, or maybe you had a bad experience with trading, and now you're kind of thinking, well, yeah, that was my fault. And you've kind of turned a new leaf, and now you're looking to get into it again. So without further ado, thanks for coming on, Akil.
You're very welcome. Appreciate you having me on here. You know, I'm a big listener to the show. I'm with you. Go back and listen to episode 1 after this episode, because this episode is going to be awesome. But certainly don't rush through it. Don't hunt and peck. Kind of listen to it in order. It's going to take you on a fabulous journey. You're going to learn more in this podcast than you did in school, at least, the educational systems that we're used to. So it's a life changer for many, man. So what you're doing is great. And it's a pleasure to be on here.
Amazing. Well, I'm really grateful to have you on. And that kind of what you just said really rolls into this podcast nicely, because we're going to be talking about the way that people approach trading. And before we get stuck into that, just give the listeners who only know me, because we worked together for many years, just give them a kind of insight into your experience in trading.
Yeah, sure. I'll give you the briefest one possible, because I can ramble forever. But I'm a former struggling trader turned consistently profitable trader, and my journey was really an interesting one. I started off in the stock market just as the next form of learning how to invest. I was one of the fortunate ones where my dad actually did a good job of teaching me about financial education. So we started at a very young age with the piggy bank and putting money in here, or a savings account. And when you get allowance and you do chores, half goes in here. And whatever I put in the savings account, he'll match it. And then explaining how interest happens. And it's like, oh, if I just put money in here, this is back when banks gave interest. You put money in here, it'll give you some back. And throughout the years, that just elevated to the next thing, whether it was certificates of deposits to money market accounts to a few bonds when I was little. And when I graduated college, I've been frugal. I've worked hard my entire life. I've been one of those people that's been working since, I think, even before you can legally work. But I've never really spent much. I don't really care about clothing. Me and you were kind of the same in that, where it's like I have a bunch of black tees and some hats, and that's about it. But I never really spent much on a lot of things. So I've always saved, and I worked all the way through college. And by the time I graduated, I had a good sum of money, and I didn't know what to do with it. And my dad said, well, just kind of continuing on this theme of learning to invest, the next level is getting some exposure to the market. And that's what initially got me into the stock market. I had pretty good success. I learned in there. And then I made the switch to Forex. At the time, not embarrassed. I'm not really embarrassed about things, but at the time, I was happy with the stock market. I understand its power. I was passionate about it. I didn't have a massive amount of money, and I started wanting more. I wanted to be kind of a full-time gig, and I wanted to know, how can I make more money? And a friend of mine told me about Forex, and I researched it, and everything said, hey, Forex, you can make more money in a shorter amount of time with less money. And I'm like, yeah. And I went to Forex, and long story short, I learned the very hard way that it's not as easy as what a lot of the people on the internet will make it seem. But I didn't give up. I loved it. I was passionate about it. I kind of went back to work and got mentorship, got coaching, put in a massive amount of time and effort, and eventually became a consistently profitable trader, managed money for a little bit. And now I'm educating traders with you and trading full time, which is pretty cool. I get to wake up and do exactly what I want to do every day. And that's amazing.
Amazing. And that is the objective for many, many people. And before you get to that point, obviously, you've just very, very briefly gone through your story there. And my story was pretty similar in terms of the hard work and the clear objective to kind of go into deeper levels of investment and speculation and, have my money managed. The only difference was I wasn't educated by my father. I had to figure it all out. But there's a journey there, right? And what we find, myself and Akil, we run a trading education company called Tier 1 Trading, and all the links for that will be in this podcast if you want to go and check us out. But there is a journey to that consistently profitable milestone, and boy, what a journey that is. But we were talking before the podcast, and we said is a very common theme where people come in and they try to aggressively approach high levels of speculation trading. They go into the Forex market with not a lot of capital, and because they've not got a lot of capital, they think that they're going to somehow be more aggressive in the market because they can afford to lose it. And it's almost like taking 10 steps back without knowing, isn't it? They're shooting themselves in the foot. Because, of course, the more aggressive you are in trading, the less likely you are to last in the game. You're going to lose your shirt, right? So, what do you find? What do you think about that? What do you find working with so many traders, the approach and why they do that? What's their motivation and what's their thought process in going around being so aggressive?
Well, I think the motivation, I think, is simple. It's they want to make more money more quickly, right? They want to get to, I think a lot of people understand that, maybe we split it in half. There's a certain group that thinks they can just turn $100 into $1 million right away. And it doesn't work like that.
And that's not their fault, is it? That's
no.
Kind of how it's advertised and just all the crap out there, right?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I was having a discussion with a trader the other day, and just saying that he had some bad mindsets about stuff, and I used to blame them. I used to be like, what are you thinking, like, and get offended. But it's like, if you put yourself in the shoes of a newer trader, and the first thing that we do, right? YouTube, wonderful search engine. Google, wonderful search engine. The first thing that you're going to see on YouTube, and you probably see it a lot even before our videos, is the good uplifting music, the guy coming in, there's money flashing, there's money things moving, the dom is on the screen, and it's like, I made $1 million last week, let me show you how to buy my super secret strategy. And it's like, you see that over and over again, and like a kid, right? You don't know any better. It's that unconscious incompetence stage that we talk about with our newer traders, where it's like, I've got a 2-year-old, right? He doesn't know that he shouldn't touch the hot stove until he touches that hot stove for the first time. Everything is brand new. Yeah. So many people, this is their first impression in the market. And unfortunately, they just don't know enough to not believe it. So they come in with that mindset. And
obviously they've got a selective biased attention to things that lights them up anyway. They don't want to know. They don't want to know about anything that's kind of, because it's not the most glamorous thing, is it? I mean, the crux of it is it's a business where you're dealing with volatility and numbers and spreadsheets, and it's not the most. I don't blame people for not actually being inspired to learn to trade, because it's something that's in the background where you think the people that do well do actually enjoy it, and the people that don't know what it's about, they're just attracted to the things that they can see based on their selective biased attention. So yeah, I'm with you, man. So what effect does that have though? Like, so say for instance that people, let's just say that someone comes in and they do have that kind of view that it should be easy, and they come to you and they start talking to you about position sizing and turning $500 into $1 million in 12 months. Where do you start with that kind of person? What's the starting point for them to reset them?
Well, it starts with, we really have to change the beliefs in general, and even about money. And this is one of the reasons I was never, although I did think I was confident in myself, I did think that I would make more money more quickly, but I never fell for the get rich quick stuff like $1 million in a week, because just, again, my dad did a good job. I had a basic level of financial education, and I knew that, hey, like, I'm not going to turn $100 into $1 million in a year. Like, that's just not how money works. There's no type of investment that can do that, at least consistently. And if there were, I wouldn't hear about it. No one would tell anyone about it. I'd keep it to myself and my circle. So I think it starts with just creating the right expectations. Like you said, hey, like, you can have this glamorous stuff, man. You can have your perfect life. You can have the cars, the house, whatever it is you want, but understanding the journey that it's going to take to get there, not just the journey of the ups and downs of dealing with the grind of learning how to trade and then actually trading, even when you're good. Because me and you, we both go through periods of funk. I spoke to Mike Bellafiore the other day, and he's like, man, we're getting hammered this month. How about you? I said, me too, brother. Like, I'm just trying to keep my head above water. And that's as a consistently profitable trader. But I think laying out realistic expectations of what can be achieved, but what it's going to take to achieve that, and time-wise, is big. I think from a financial standpoint, like I said, education standpoint, the power of compounding, where it's like, you don't necessarily need to do more to make more. Rather, you need to be consistent in what you're doing, and kind of in that consistency, the more will automatically happen. As long as you're consistent, you can do the same thing and get a better result if you're consistent, instead of kind of needing to press. And I think people don't understand that from a fundamental level.
And I think that I totally agree with you. And I think because of that, they then, when we tell them the truth and they figure out actually there's a bit of work to do here, what they can do then is massively kind of underestimate what's achievable in the kind of 18 months to 5 years, say. And that really kind of discourages them. And that's where we're seeing the results with our traders, right? Because tier one, we've always give people realistic expectations. And we've always said, 3 years, a sweet spot to go through and become consistently profitable. And, tier one, we launched 3 years ago this January, right? And when we launched that thing, we said, we're gonna change the statistic of 90, 90, 90, because there's no need for that statistic. It's just because people aren't educated. And I saw a review the other day on tier one, and the guy said, don't go to tier one. They've had traders there that have been there a year and they're still not profitable, right? And I just want to say, if you're listening, if you can start learning to trade and be profitably trading consistently after 12 months, hats off to you, because that is a unicorn. It's not the average. It's an anomaly. And I don't want people seeing things like that and thinking that's the normal, because it's not. And there's going to come a time very soon now where we're starting to churn out traders of tier one, and they're going to do phenomenally well. We've already had a couple go on to a prop firm, FTMO, right? Last week they messaged you, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's now's the time.
The COVID was for not down rating anything it did, but for a lot of our traders, it was a blessing in disguise. Yeah, there were a bunch of traders that were ready, and again, people that have been with us a year, 2 years, and due to either working from home or being furloughed, this was the opening they had to hey, let's go for it, and they were ready. And we saw a massive amount starting from April and over to summer, taking on these challenges. We're, completing them, working for prop firms. And obviously we have a few that are managing hedge funds and stuff like that. But it was, the moment came and it was kind of the excuse they needed to go for it. And they were ready. And it wasn't after a year. These guys have been with us a year and a half, 2 years, the full time, 3 years. But they were ready and they don't have to look back. They're good to go. And earn much
and
more
we know
time
that they've gone into that as a complete business person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Providing all the stats, all the paperwork, all the backup to approach that as a professional and get accepted into those positions. Whereas there's so many people out there kind of just going, I'm a discretionary trader, man. And they just kind of put their finger in the air. And you think, well, good luck, good luck getting any investment if that's what you're going for. Because as an investor myself, if you haven't got any like results to back you up to say that, the best case and worst case scenario and when I'm going to get my return back, I'm not going to invest in you. And I'm a highly speculative investor. Mm-hmm. So good luck with that. Anyway, so I knew this would turn into a little bit of a rant because that's just what we do best. But tell us, let's talk a little bit about how the traders that kind of go straight into trading without having any financial foundation whatsoever. So, they're clinging on to trading as being their hope, the thing that's going to get them out of the crap that they're in. And of course, they're normally the ones that chase shiny objects. And what I've found, I don't know about you, the reason they do that is because in trading specifically, they'll find someone who's going for a winning period and they'll go, oh, that looks good. And they'll go and try that. And then, of course, that person goes into a drawdown, which is natural. And then they go, this doesn't work. I'm going to go and see who's doing better. And they go into that. And then they go, and so on and so on and so on, right? How do you snap someone out of that? Like, what's the trick?
It's funny because that's exactly how the cycle goes. And they get. I'm picturing a tennis match in my head, and there's the ball just getting whipped across the court back and forth. Yeah. But I think it starts with the expectations. Like they need to, like you said, I don't care how good of a trader you are, how magic your system is, right? Every single trader, every single system is going to go through a period of drawdown. So it's going to go through a period where you're losing some money, you're giving some back, right? And it's not a negative thing, right? If you look at anything, if you need to, the market needs time to breathe. Nothing goes up forever. This past year in 2020 was a perfect example. We were in a bull market for a million years. It gave relief, right? Many people were fearful of that relief, calling it a crash. These were the best trading opportunities that we've seen in, for me since 2009, even better. And I know that you had one of your best days ever in life during this. But that's natural in an equity curve. I mean, even stuff like if you want to jump in the air, if you want to jump higher, what do you need to do first? You need to bend your knees before you can go up. So traders need to understand that. And the goal isn't to avoid the drawdown, it's control it, where it's like, hey, make what I need to make when I'm hot, because we're all going to have our hot streaks. And then manage how much you give back, survive how much you give back during the rough periods, and just survive for the next hot period to come or the next extension up. And that's how a professional trader understands it. Like, I've had a rough October. My goal is to stay afloat, right? I don't want a significant drawdown. I just want to manage it because I know the next hot streak is going to come. But the newer traders, they see it, they get scared, they get fearful. A lot of them are over leveraged because maybe during that hot streak, they got overconfident. They want to make more. So now they start tripling and quadrupling their position size. And they do that right when the hot streak ends. And then they go into a drawdown. Now, instead of a normal drawdown where it's like, I lost a little bit. Now they lost 4 times what they should have made. And now they're behind where they started. And now they got to do even more to try to catch up. And it's just a downward spiral. But if they can understand the process, and this is another reason why I think backtesting is so important. It's not about the numbers, right? Historical backtesting, obviously you want to see if what you're trading is profitable. But one of the reasons I like, and we always preach manual backtesting, is because you get to live the journey. You get to see the first 5 months where you're hot and you're over, you're cocky, like this is the best system ever. And then it's like a month of like returns. You're like, oh no, okay. But then you see the next streak and you live that journey. And when you start trading for real, you know what to expect. It's going to be ups and downs and ups and downs. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be up.
Yeah. You by doing it manually, you feel so much more connected to your business, connected to the numbers, right? And you just you kind of live and breathe it. And you might find that you've got a good reward to risk profile, but the strike rate's letting you down. Now you know to focus on honing in on your strike rate and not worry about the reward to risk. And it's all kind of it's a scaling in process rather than just taking something off the shelf and going, well, this should work. Why isn't it working? Oh man, I'm going to try something else. You're forever cycle going round in circles in that kind of in that bubble. And man, that happens so often. I see that so often, traders wanting to do that and not actually take ownership of developing the system to suit their requirements when they know what to do. They just don't want to put in the work, right?
Yeah. And it's similar to what you said earlier. I mean, and you have to put into work. That takes time. I mean, you don't back test in a month unless you got nothing better to do and you're putting in 24-hour shifts, you're not back testing in a month. So that after the period of learning, that back testing process can take months. For some, it could take a year. Like, it should be no surprise why we don't expect people to be consistently profitable in 3 months. Like, it's just not, it's not enough time to do everything. It's not enough time to start a business. What other business can you start in 3 months and get the ball rolling? People need to compare it to that.
I know people do need to compare it to that. And look, if you was fresh out of school and you was going to work for a bank or an institution, you would spend 5 years on a you would even if you're doing trading, you would spend 5 years doing theory, markets, economics. You'd go onto the bank and trade some demo accounts, and you'd be sweeping the floor and all the rest of it. Right? There'd be a 5-year period. You'd be making the coffees, and man, the beauty of trading is that I find it really blew my mind. How there's no time for money correlation, and you can really develop a system to as profitable as someone spending all day at the charts. You can develop a system that will be just as profitable spending an hour a day at the charts, and that's beautiful. And also it's very, very liquid. It's very free and nimble. There's no overheads. You've got some software and a laptop and the rest of it. But I guess that is a very glamorous way to look at a business, but trust me, there's a lot of work behind the scenes, and there's certain things that you cannot skip. So just on that note, I'm gonna ask your opinion on, if there's a trader coming in brand new, is listening to this and has listened from number one, and they think, I think trading's the next step. I think I'd be interested in trading. I think that's just like what you said. The next step would be going, taking your investing to another level, maybe going into speculation and higher volatility trading. What would be kind of the fundamental steps that you would lay out and say, you must do this, you must do this, you must do this? 3 things.
Ooh, 3 things.
I put them on the spot.
I would say this first and foremost. Even before trading, they need to have their own personal financial situation in check. I think a lot of we hear a lot about people are like, hey, I'm going to start with a $200 account. And like, we don't want to offend people. Like I've gotten more harsh, right? After I met you, but I used to be like, oh no, yeah, you can do it. Some, trader, they'll let you trade micros. You can start. But now it's like, no, don't. Because if you have only $200 to put in your account, obviously you don't have your personal finances in store. If that's all you have, if you're waiting for the next check so you can fund a trading account, you need to handle your personal situation first. And even from a psychological reason, and once you're in a position where that money is I don't want to call it extra money, but it's less important. If you lose that $200, it won't have any effect on your life.
Disposable.
You're in a better psychological situation, because now you're not looking at it, well, like, I need to make money. You've afforded yourself the ability to have time to learn, right? I don't have to invest it right now. I don't have to make money right now. I have time to save and learn. So I would say, first off, just have your financial situation in check, or at least have a plan to while you're learning. That's first and foremost. 2 is focus on, and this was a mistake I made early in my trading career, instead of focusing on what to trade, where we talked about earlier, the next shiny system off the shelf, focus on how to trade. And, if you look through, if you've seen kind of the layout of the courses that we offer, it's going to take you you're going to have to get through 3 courses, right? The cornerstone and the 2 foundations before we ever actually talk about a trading strategy. And
that's 3 to 6 months training. 3 to 6 months training straight up, right? Not 2 days, not a weekend.
And it's all about the how. It's all about theory. It's all about process. It's everything that you need to know to be ready to actually learn how to trade with the strategy, how to make the strategy your own, and how to actually, make it profitable. Because if you go straight to the strategy, you're still going to fail because you don't know how to use it. You don't know how to tweak it. You don't know how to execute it. So I would say that focus on how to trade, just in general, learning the art of technical analysis, developing a plan. If it's fundamental, have the fundamental side of it as well, but learning how to trade, not a specific what to trade. And then lastly, I would say don't underestimate psychology. I think trading psychology is by far the biggest maker and breaker. I guess you can throw risk management in there as well. But trading psychology, we know so many traders that are good, like good technically and good systems. We've seen their back testing results, but all of a sudden when they're trading it live, it's not working out because they're making those psychological errors. And that's something that haunted me for years, where, I used to blame the system all the time. And then I kind of had a moment where I was at rock bottom and had some time to do some deep thoughts and kind of reviewed my system. And I realized, like, man, the system's actually pretty good, Akil. You're actually good at analyzing a market. You just keep cutting off your own foot. And I made the decision where it's like, okay, I'm going to just limit these mistakes. And then all of a sudden, limiting these mistakes actually turned an unprofitable trader, not system, an unprofitable trader into a profitable one. And I think people shortcut the psychology side because, again, it's tough. It's not as black and white as learning how to trade. We can teach anyone how to trade. It's pretty, it's if then thought processes. It's an automated system. It's like programming, but with less, do the math and whatnot. Psychology is hard because you got to take a look at yourself. You got to, do some deep dives, and it's hard to kind of, I don't know about you. It's kind of hard to be honest with yourself. And I think the biggest thing there is the fact that when you're going into trading and you're having, you're creating this trading business, there's no one else to blame other than yourself. So it's because there's no staff. There's no one you can blame for showing up late or sleeping with a janitor, or there's none of that. There's no one making sales. There's no one coming in late. There's no market crashing that's going to affect your business. It's all on you. There's no one to blame. It's literally you. And whether or not you generate profits consistently is on you. So you have to really, it's like an AA meeting. You really have to get that close with yourself and go, this is my problem. And it's only me that's going to get out of this and make this work. Yeah. And that's just on that real quick. And I think that's one of the beauties that, I'm sure you've mentioned Tier 1 a lot over time in your podcast. One of the biggest things that we decided to do when we started the business was we wanted that community approach. It was something that I wanted to do for years, and something that you were extremely big on. And we were kind of nervous, like, could we make it work? Because you see Facebook groups and other things turn toxic. And I remember you saying we have to trust that we're bringing in the right people. And if we bring in the right people, if we put them in, if we empower them, if we put them in leadership positions, we'll create a culture that we want. And obviously, when you start something new, it's like, but it's been amazing. It's the most powerful part. And what it does is it provides, it's nothing but general respect, right? So whoever's on that platform, whether you're new, you've been there for years, it's respectful. No one's taunting anyone. Everyone wants to see you improve. And what that does is that creates a culture where you feel free to be yourself. You feel free to give criticism, and you feel okay taking criticism. And that helps with that extra layer of accountability, where it's like, yeah, it may be tough for you to look in the mirror and be like, yeah, I'm effing up. But when you have traders, respected traders around you saying, hey, you shouldn't do that, or hey, you can't do that. Now, all of a sudden, it's just that allows you to kind of really think about it and really help spark that change. It offers that external accountability, which is often not there in trading because it's usually a dude in front of his computer by himself the whole
It's
time.
a lonely game, man. It's a lonely game. And I think, yeah, you're right. We introduced those accountability sessions, which we host every Friday.
Amazing.
And now they are booked up for months in advance, man. They're very, very popular, and it's great. They come on, we talk, what's going on, what's the problems, what you're struggling with. It's just, it's unparalleled. It really is.
And you learn about them as a person, not just a name.
Yeah.
It's a face, a person.
Well, right?
Yeah. It's not just a, Big Pippin 33 or something like that. So
no, we're invested in their journey. That's really cool. So look, this has been an extremely valuable lesson. We've already gone over half hour, so it's flown by. So I want to ask Akil, where can the listeners find you, man?
Well, you can find me all over social media. I've got a podcast as well called the Trading Coach Podcast. It talks a little bit about trading, shares a lot of the conversations that we have on the platform, and touches on a few other aspects as well, just motivation, positivity, productivity, some business and finance stuff as well. Basically whatever I feel like talking about, kind of like your podcast.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's amazing.
But also social media at Akil Stokes RTM. Just like Jason says, you got to be careful of the trolls, or not the trolls, but the fake accounts out there. So just as he warns you, if anyone ever reaches out to you and DMs you, if I ever ask for money, it's not me. So be careful. But I think I'm a good follower. It's not just trading. It's not just business. I share a lot with my family, and I like the kind of the whole journey. It all kind of, it's combined for me. A trader, a newer father, a newer businessman. It's kind of the journey, and hopefully I can lay out just little tidbits and advice for you guys as you're on your way as well.
Yeah, no, extremely valuable. And definitely follow Akil on Twitter. Definitely follow his podcast. It's absolutely incredible. Very, very inspiring. And also, me and Akil work together. So we are the two mentors of Tier 1 Trading, two main mentors. We run the live rooms. We produced a course, many courses in the platform. And that actual platform was recognized by Dr. Brett Steenberger, who is a leading trading psychologist, who featured us in the Forbes magazine for the innovation we were doing in that platform. And next week, we're going to take this trading conversation a little bit deeper, because it's one thing for me and Akil to kind of have this biased view, but I'm going to have this same conversation with Mike Bellafiore and Brett Steenberger himself next week. So if you've got value from this one, you'll definitely get value from next week's. It's going to be a banger. So Akil, I appreciate you coming on, man. Thanks very much.
Anytime, man. It's a pleasure. It's an honor.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll do this again. And guys, whatever it is that you're doing this weekend, have a good one. And until then, have a great rest of your day and weekend, and I'll see you then.
For news on all future events and updates, go to jasongraystone.com.